Blog Talk Radio.
Contact reports 111 translation English Semyas 1. Wake up, at last. 2. Friend, dear friend, come on, come. Quetzal 1. Don't be so worried. His coma is already leaving him. 2. It is also so incomprehensible, but it's actually going away. Semyas 3. Surely? 4. You don't just want to comfort me? 5. He is still so severely injured. Quetzal 3. Really, don't be worried. 4. You see. He's waking up. 5. There you are, at last. 6. You have caused us worries, my friend. Billy, man. This crap. Quetzal 7. You see, Semyas, he's already recovering quite well. 8. He can already grumble again like a trooper. Semyas 6. My friend, Billy, what are you doing? 7. How do you feel? Billy, Oh, it's going. Semyas 8. You became quite badly ill. Billy, but somehow, it goes again. I saw myself soon in the eternal hunting grounds. Oh man, this sweat, this is disgusting. Quetzal 9. You amaze me. 10. You were just lying in the deepest coma, and you're already back to full consciousness, without a transitional phase. 11. I would also like to have your constitution of your will. Billy, oh, of course, I collapsed in the forest. I became nauseated all of a sudden, then I saw some stars, and then some merry fireworks, probably the terrific fire in Holland. After that, everything went as fast as lightning, everything became blissfully nice, and then, I sank into a bright blue sea. Then, there was quite simply nothing more. I had become quite unconscious down in the forest, right? Quetzal 12. So it was, that is of correctness. 13. But you were not very far from not returning to this life anymore. 14. At any rate, you wouldn't have survived more than 5 to 6 hours more. 15. Your lungs and your pleura were inflamed like a blazing inferno. 16. Moreover, you suffered from severe shortness of breath, through the inflammation of the lungs and the pleura. 17. In addition to that came the fact that your nerves were in very vicious turmoil and still multiplied the illness effects. 18. Your heart was also affected by this and worked very irregularly. Billy, it certainly couldn't have been so bad because I feel quite adequate again. Semyas 9. Quetzal brought you into our ship with the porter. Asterisk examined you very closely, and diagnosed you here via the apparatuses. 10. There are, therefore, no doubts about his findings. 11. He was also the one who connected you to this regeneration device, in order to eliminate the most dangerous illness effects. 12. That's why you feel much better now. 13. Your moisture drain, which you call sweat and which you noticed, is also because of this treatment referred to you, and it will still continue to persist for approximately 1 hour. Small bullet translator's note. The porter that Semyas is referring to is a teleportation device, which is capable of transporting objects and people from one location to another in no time. Billy, that is, indeed, magnificent. Quite dear thanks for that. Quetzal 19. You're still not back to full health. You should know that. 20. But I may not allow more treatment to be applied to you because that could produce harmful consequences to your body. 21. Next, you need to nurse yourself back to health or consult a doctor. 22. Above all, during the next few days, you should see to it that you breathe a lot of fresh and healthy air, get plenty of sleep, and go for many walks. Semyas 14. Please hold yourself to Quetzal's advice because it is of importance for your health. 15. And in the future, please be kinder with your health and no longer drive yourself into illness through worries and problems. 16. That's the main reason why the illness could befall you, for your nerves were completely ruined, as Quetzal determined. 17. He also found out that this was due to the concerns that you mentioned on last Sunday during our conversation, when we talked about the deplorable conditions in the group. 18. Unfortunately, we still haven't been able to find a solution in this regard, but up to now, we have come so far that we've recognized that you really aren't able to bear the nervous strain anymore. 19. The leadership of the group in all matters is too much for one human being alone, and moreover, it is all something like a miracle, as you would say to this, that you were able to do it at all and hold out for such a long time. 20. Just too much had been expected of you. 21. We also understand now that you cannot continue in this regard and that a change must take place. 22. But how this change should look, we do not know yet, since it truly places us before a very big problem, for in your group, no one is found who could take over this difficult task even only halfway. Billy, you have, indeed, made quite an enormous change of heart in yourselves. Is this also the opinion of Ta and the others? Quetzal, 23. That is of correctness. Billy, aha, what reasonable human beings you are. Semyas, 23. Just bring forth your mockery with us. We have honestly earned it. 24. But on the other hand, you should take into consideration that we are not superhumans or superpeople and also have to learn constantly, which we can often only do through committed mistakes. 25. On the other hand, however, the Earth human beings still pose great and partially very severe problems for us in their whole manner of thinking and acting, whereby we can be misled over and over again, and through this, we also inevitably make wrong decisions and have false views. Billy, I'm not reproaching you all, girl. Sometimes, one is just led to express himself in mockery. Quetzal, 24. That is of correctness. That is also often the case with us. Billy, aha, so then you are somehow real human beings, but tell me, what do you actually want from me? You didn't pick me up for nothing, right? Semyas, 26. You called for me in a rather needful manner. 27. That's why we came, but without previously holding an inspection as to why you called me. 28. That's why we led you so far away. 29. If we had found out via an inspection that you were injured so much by illness, then we would have directly snatched you up at home with the porter. 30. But we first recognized things when you collapsed in the forest down there. 31. Unfortunately, all your thoughts were blocked, which is why we weren't able to analyze them. Billy, I should have called you? I know nothing about that, my child. Quetzal, 25. Then it must have been an unconscious consequence, probably in a delirium. Billy, that is probable the gist of the matter. Semyas, 32. But now, you shouldn't speak so much. Rather, you should go back home and rest. Billy, then let me down. Jacobus and Elsie are down there and waiting for me. The two will take me home. Quetzal, 26. It is better if we set you down over there, for as you can see, there are two men coming along the forest road. 27. You have your communication device with you, so inform your friends that they should pick you up over there. Billy, okay. Muranos 3. Muranos 3. Muranos 3, yeah, Ichbida, Muranos 1. Billy, Jacobus, Farnak Shelchuberon Dangade Willazu. Muranos 3, Ichhadai Nudrak Verstand. Afshalsh, und dann? Billy, for Afshalsh und dann Strasgage Willizu. Maranos 3, ich Haverstand. Afshalsh Uber. Meerchomed. Billy, get, ich Roofer dan wider. Semyas, 33. Your native language still isn't understandable to me, Billy, even I don't understand it sometimes. There are so many dialects. Quetzal, 28. Once I've set you down, keep moving and don't just stand still at the place. Otherwise, you'll fall asleep on the spot. 29. I had to numb your nerves, so now, it's as though they are sleeping, and they are very slow to react. Billy, oh, and how long will this condition last, then? Quetzal, 30. About 12 to 14 days, for only through this will the nerves regenerate in a short time. Billy, so, how did you make this numbing? Quetzal, 31. Through electromagnetic influences. Billy, so to speak, a bombardment? Quetzal, 32. That is approximately of correctness. 33. But look, your friends are already driving along the road there. 34. Tell them that they should turn left at the road there and stop at the fence. Billy, okay. Get, Jacobus, Fargrad die Strasse Dollingsin. Maranos 3, Directs da. Billy, nay, Grad die Dollings. Maranos 3, die Links, get. Billy. Yeah, far nu die Waghindir. Far nu nu wider Hindir. Get, yeah, halt grad dobim hog. Yeah, get. Ich chum dandat her. So, Quetzal, now you can let me down. The area is... No, look there. Once again, people are coming. Jacobus, ich bin up enerviertel stundodersvens minute det. Maranos 3, get, in enerviertel stundodersvens minute. Semyas, 34. I'll set you down over there in the forest clearing near the house, Billy. Very well. Then I can call Jacobus by radio again. Then, he can pick me up over there. I wouldn't like to walk so far. Somehow, I still feel weak and tired. Quetzal, 35. That will also continue for a few more days. 36. So now, I'll set you down. 37. Be careful. The ground down there is somewhat damp. I hope you don't slip upon touchdown. 38. Till we meet again, my friend, and be very mindful of yourself. 39. I will come back tomorrow or on Wednesday, for by then, we should be able to have advice for you. 40. Till we meet again. Billy, goodbye, Quetzal, and very many thanks for your effort and help. You, too, dear girl, very many thanks, until we meet again. Semyas, Billy, you've come rather late today, when I consider that last time, it was during the day. Quetzal, 1. It just so happened because we first had to rework all the facts thoroughly. 2. Accordingly, the things are now clear, and we've reached the following conclusion. In reference to your person, and in respect of the fact that you are no longer willing to bear the leadership of the group. 3. There isn't any possibility or prospect that someone can be found in your group, neither at present nor in the foreseeable future, who could take over the leadership of the group with all its concerns in steadily occurring form and fulfill everything to satisfaction. 4. On the one hand, this is based in the lack of the necessary knowledge but, on the other hand, also in the lack of understanding. 5. Add to that the fact that no person of the group is educated and developed in the manual interest so far that he could boast in all occurring manual activities. 6. Professional knowledge in the largest measure, as it is necessary for the building up and preservation of the center, is not available with the group members. whereby the various occurring works of a manual nature can no longer be carried out under your instruction due to your stepping aside. 7. In an organizational sense, also the driving force of the organization falls as a result of your stepping aside, as well as the far-sighted overview of everything, so even in terms of the occurring works to be done. 8. At present, there is, unfortunately, no one in the group who can exhibit these qualities even only approximately. 9. Indeed, varying opinions prevail with various ones that this isn't very bad and that everything can, indeed, be accomplished with good will. 10. But they cannot recognize their self-deception, and they judge everything as too easy, which is why they also don't have very deep thoughts about your stepping aside and are of the opinion that everything is easier to cope with and handle than it looks. 11. Their self-deception will, therefore, place them before very serious problems, which will already appear quite soon. 12. But now to the core of these concerns. 13. It wasn't possible for us, by any means, to find a sufficiently educated replacement for you, as I already explained, because such would have to arise from the group itself. 14. But finding a suitable person outside of the group is just as illusory as our desire that you should continue to maintain the leadership, if everything still shouldn't get worse than before. 15. But it has become clear to us that you do not want to undo your will anymore. 16. On the other hand, it would also be extremely inadvisable to recommend someone from outside of the group to you because this would lead within a short time to the complete destruction of the group and all its interests and efforts. 17. For these reasons, we have reached the resolution that the only way that remains open for the continued existence of the group and the task is that the whole group takes over the task of the management, which won't be easy for it, however, which it will soon see. 18. That is our advice, and it's the only possible advice that we can give. Billy, that's about what I also thought myself, when I let everything go through my head again today. But one didn't want to have it any other way. It will now just be the case that for certain works to be done, specialists will have to be requisitioned and expensively paid. But now, it will also even be the case that everyone must think about the building up and continued existence of the center themselves, but also in respect of all works to be done, etc., etc., because I will no longer interfere in any matters of this kind, not even in an advisory manner. I'm just sick and tired of it. But on the other hand, I finally want to be myself again, which you evidently understand. Also, I expressly explained that I will only remain in the center and continue to work for the mission if I don't need to bear the leadership of all things anymore, which means that I don't want to have to deal with any issues of the group anymore. Only for absolutely private concerns can I still hold myself responsible, but not for anything else anymore. All group matters and all matters surrounding the distribution of the writings no longer concern me at all. So from now on, I will also pay a monthly rent for the apartment, which is also certainly irrevocable for me. Should this not be accepted, however, then no places to stay in the center remain for me anymore. Semyas 1. But you cannot do that, however. 2. You live with your family on only a very small pension. 3. Moreover, compensations are entitled to you for your works because every work is worth its wages, as you yourselves say. 4. To my knowledge, it was also decided in your group that in each case, you were to receive 50% of all proceeds for your and your family's upkeep, but this, in my judgment, does not in the least outweigh the worth of your work. Billy, now listen, girl, I said clearly and plainly that I'm laying down the leadership and will have nothing more to do with the group. Only on a purely private basis am I responsible for the group members. This, then, also means for me that I stand in subtenancy with the group and, therefore, have to pay a rental fee, which, admittedly, the group has to determine. I will not and cannot live in the center for free. Otherwise, I would actually have to move away from there. What that would mean, however, you know very well. Quetzal, 19. I find your decision not of correctness, but I must, indeed, accept it, just like all the others. 20. But nevertheless, I would like to tell you the following. 21. You have applied all your strength for the welfare and prosperity of the group and all of its interests. 22. But their thanks for it were irrationality and often, even very often, only very deficient efforts in the areas of evolution, which led to the fact that you simply cannot continue anymore and that you lay down the management. 23. The group members should still truly consider what was given to them by you and what should still be given further, which is why they should remunerate you fairly. 24. It would now truly be unfair if you would yet pay a fee for your right of residence. 25. As Semyas already explained, you are entitled to a certain remuneration, which has been awarded to you by the sale of the writings, and you should take this for yourself. Billy. But I said clearly and plainly that I will have nothing more to do with the group. This means for me that I pay my house rent and that I accept absolutely nothing for a remuneration, as you say this. What I need for material and possibly still for postage, as well as for typewriter repairs and so on and so forth. From now on, I will fork this out of my own pocket, as I have always partially done so up to now. I will only do my work concerning the mission in the sense that I'll write everything down in such a way as you or any levels transmit it to me. But that's it. I'll hand over what is written to the group, and what it then makes of it, that is no longer my problem. For group concerns themselves, I am in no way responsible anymore. And the reproduction and dissemination of the writings, etc., this, as was already said, is also the task of the group. In this respect, I now no longer hold myself exactly to the letter. Quetzal, 26. This will impact the group members very hard, and whether they will get along with this, that is a very big question. Billy, one didn't want it differently, and now, I cannot help any more. Quetzal, 27. Thus, we will have to work out a lot of things in the near future, which you will then have to hand over to the group. 28. These will be regulations and rules that, unfortunately, become unavoidable through this. 29. But at the same time, this also means that a decision and resolution made by us today enters into force, which is that we can give the group one last chance, which we limit to 6 months. 30. By then, up to the last day of the month of February, 1979, everything hasn't fundamentally changed to the good and better in the form of our regulations, in terms of the overall task fulfillment, then we will withdraw ourselves and no longer concern ourselves with the task, which relates to you Earth human beings. 31. This would then also mean that all storages in the Sahar Center would be completely eliminated and no real successes could be produced there anymore. 32. Therefore, it is now up to the group and the individual members to reflect at last and to address all things accordingly, as these are necessary. Billy, that will cause new riot, my friend. Quetzal, 33. That isn't likely. On the other hand, new arrangements are inevitable. 34. But I know what your comment refers to, because you're thinking of last weekend, for your words have been confirmed. Billy, exactly, I did, indeed, tell you that a dictatorship and slavery would be spoken of because it just doesn't want to be understood that regulations of this kind are something completely different and, in addition, are not commands. Semyas, 5. The thought forms of the earth human beings are simply incomprehensible to me. 6. How can a thinking human being be so unreasonable and self-centered? Billy, you ask me too much, my child. I also don't understand it. Quetzal, 35. It is also incomprehensible to me, but even more so the anti-natural sense that the earth human beings constantly excuse themselves for their own wrongdoings, namely that they imagine themselves to be unable to change anything in and of themselves overnight. 36. Over and over again, I must make the finding, during occasional inspections, that many, even group members, are of the opinion that it can't be expected of them that they would have to make a change to the better in a quick form because they are still in such dire need of knowledge and are not so advanced in their overall evolution that they could do this. 37. But that is, in truth, not the case, as you yourself know very well from your own experience. 38. Only the want-to-be developed forms the basis for rapid actions toward producing and making an appropriate change and transformation in a very short time. 39. But as long as the group members are still of this erroneous and incomprehensible opinion, that they are entitled to a right to changes and transformations in the long run because their overall evolution still leaves much to be desired, they also won't achieve any significant successes. 40. They can only acquire and attain successes if they finally realize that they must bear the full responsibility for each of their actions themselves and have to be responsible for each change and transformation in themselves. 41. And only if they are able to recognize this, if they finally strive for reflection and consideration and give up their selfishness and their constant self-pity, only then will they realize that it is in no way too much to ask for them to seek, in the shortest time, to make changes and transformations in themselves, in their thoughts and actions, and to strive for and achieve these quickly. 42. That would be what I had to say today. 43. It hardly needs any other remarks. 44. Only for you, my friend, do I still have to give the following advice. 45. For your health, it would be of utility if you would let a doctor prescribe you some medications, for I wasn't able to eliminate all illness factors for you, according to which you are, therefore, not yet at full health again, as you yourself can determine. 46. Unfortunately, it isn't possible for me to do more toward remedying the illness for you because your body wouldn't cope with this. 47. Thus, I must leave it at what I could do for you on Monday. 48. Meanwhile, you still stand under the numbing of your nerve centers, which makes you tired and drowsy. 49. But nevertheless, I must burden you with work, so namely with the transmission of the contact reports, so that these don't become forgotten or simply neglected. 50. On the other hand, it would make a lot of work for you later, if you had to write several reports after the fact. 51. Therefore, my friend, I will transmit the first reports of the last two contacts to you tonight and then transmit the one of today to you tomorrow evening between 8 p.m. and 8:45 p.m. Billy, that's fine for me. Quetzal. Quetzal, 52. Unfortunately, it cannot be changed that you will be very tired and will have some difficulties with the writing. 53. But you'll do it, for I am certainly not mistaken about your will, which still works very distinctively. Billy, you could be right about that, for despite my listlessness and tiredness, I have a completely clear head. Quetzal, 54. Of course, for only your nerve centers are exhausted, but not your consciousness. 55. But now, my friend, everything would be discussed for today. 56. Unless you still have a question. 57. If not, then we will go now. Billy, no, as far as... wait, yes, how is it with you? Do you actually dance, too? I mean, like with us, men and women together, etc. Yes. 7. Such rhythmic movements are well known to us, and the Earth human beings have also taken this over from our ancestors. 8. These rhythmic movements are, to my knowledge, known among all human forms in the universe, only in very different forms. 9. But the rule is that male life forms among us do not indulge in such rhythmic movements together with female life forms, but only alone or among their peers. 10. In contrast to the animal world, the sense for rhythmic movements among human life forms is pronounced with the female life form, while the male life form often appropriates this out of pure egoism and out of expediency, even though his movements of this kind are often very unaesthetic and almost foreign to nature. 11. But the other reason also lies in the fact that many male life forms, due to the reversals of the incarnation cycles, are no longer fully pronounced in their masculinity and carry certain female traits in themselves, which then also express themselves in these rhythmic movements and come to appearance. Billy, that sounds just as if such men are not full-fledged men because due to the incarnation cycle disturbances, they are not fully pronounced as male life forms, evidently in this case because of a too premature birth of the new personality. Quetzal, 58. That is, in a certain framework of correctness, and on the other hand, the incompleteness of a male life form does, indeed, appear if he calculatingly gives himself over to rhythmic movements, so to dancing, as you said. 59. Your explanation in the form of questioning corresponds to the exact correctness and ascertainment of the facts. Billy, all dancing men of our world, however, won't be very happy if they get to hear this. Semyas, 12. Nevertheless, the fact remains irrefutable. Billy, that is clear, if this is so. But then, why is it that a woman can become enthusiastic about it when a man dances? Quetzal, 60. That lies in her nature. 61. Explained in other words, this means that due to the rhythmic movement pronouncedness of the female life form, she lets herself be captivated by the calculating rhythmic movements of the male life form, while overlooking the overall, often very inharmonious conduct of the male life form, even though it looks very strange. Billy, I myself say that a bit differently, namely that it looks disgusting. Semyas, 13. With that, you are not wrong. Billy, okay, that was my question. I have no more in stock. So then, till we meet again, and buy together. By the way, when will you come back? Quetzal, 62. We don't know that yet. 63. Till we meet again, and think of your medications. Billy, we'll see, buy together. Semyas, 14. Farewell, my friend, and be very attentive to yourself. Billy, I will. Buy together, and greet everyone rather nicely for me. Also from everyone in the group, I am to convey dear greetings, in spite of everything. Billy, it has, once again, taken quite a long time before you yourselves have endeavored around a contact again. But I understand why and don't want to give you any reproaches over it. On the other hand, this also isn't entitled to me. Have you endeavored around us in the meantime? Quetzal, 1. No, we have omitted that because the recent events weren't such that our interests would have been directed toward them. Billy, that, in and of itself, is a pity, but how, then, do you imagine that now everything should really go on? Semyas, 1. That is still unclear to us, for too many things have changed, which has destroyed all our plans. Billy, does this mean, now, that everything with the mission is destroyed so far that all previous pre-plannings have become obsolete? Quetzal, 2. That is, unfortunately, of correctness, for not one single plan can still be implemented, according to which everything must now be newly planned in every respect and then carried out accordingly. 3. We ourselves are no longer in a position to lead these concerns of a new planning, which is why we had to pass it on to the High Council. Billy, and what does it say about this? Quetzal, 4. Do you really want to know that? Billy, it must be, even if it should be hard. But see, it is important for me, and why it is, you know very well. Quetzal, 5. I understand. Then it should be, 6. The High Council was for the fact that our contacts for the human beings of the earth should be broken off immediately and never be resumed again. 7. It justified this with the fact that despite all attempts, the members of your group have previously only endeavored in very few cases around the actual task and its fulfillment and around the necessary change in themselves. 8. In consideration of this, it is completely incomprehensible and absolutely irresponsible, for these group members were and are precisely those who have been oriented and informed in the best way about the task and its meaning and fulfillment. 9. But the fact that only very negligible successes and fulfillments of duty appear, this is something that is incomprehensible in any form and that even points to indifference. 10. In various cases, group membership is only existent for the sake of sensationalism and for similar motives. 11. A true interest in the fulfillment of the task and, consequently associated with this, also the resulting activities and works, etc., is only present with a few group members. 12. In the others, the very erroneous view prevails that the group members would still be very far behind in their evolution, since they are, after all, earth human beings and so on, whereby a right can be derived, that forbearance is to be practiced with them. 13. But this is, and this is also our opinion, not expedient, for there is no right that allows such forbearance in an unjustified form. 14. It is. Billy, now, he has changed sides. Quetzal. 15. I don't understand. Billy, I'll explain it to you afterwards, once you've finished your speech. Just know that it was exactly 8:40 p.m. and 13 seconds. But just go on. Quetzal, 16. It is incomprehensible that Earth human beings, such as the group members, appeal to such illogical excuses, for the knowledge imparted to them so far is more than enough for them to realize that there is no right of forbearance in the form mentioned. 17. There is only a right to fulfill one's duty in every respect, and thus, also a right to fulfill one's evolution, as well as a right to endeavor in all progressing things and matters. 18. It is quite childish to appeal to the fact that forbearance must be exercised because the group members are, after all, Earth human beings and, thus, still far behind in their evolution. 19. If, through the knowledge already transmitted, the teaching of the Spirit would have already been followed even only in half, then the interest in the fulfillment of the task and the interest in the fulfillment and observance of the teaching would have already risen so far in the individual group members that only very small failures would have been registered. 20. But since the interest in the fulfillment of the task wasn't present but, rather, only an interest in sensationalism and the like, this had to lead to continuous failures that become more and more malicious and to the slow decay of the group. 21. For these reasons and in consideration of the fact that so far, still no significant change has altered the situation, the High Council has issued a statement that our contacts should be broken off for all time. 22. After everything that has happened so far, the High Council can no longer realize any change, except through the toughest regulations and even through force, which speaks contrary to all law and against all reason, however. 23. But solely the intercession of Semyas, Ta, Plea, and of mine kept the High Council from even making a regulation that, so far, has never been made by it. Billy, you did that for us idiots. Semyas, 2. Sure, and somehow, I must agree with you about the designation, idiots, because this time, the things surrounding our contacts are very bad. 3. Some other time, the High Council would issue a determining order, for through the wrong conduct of the group, even we ourselves and our own mission would be endangered. 4. Therefore, if things should happen once again, like what was previously provoked by the group in complete recklessness and in rebellion, then this time, the decision of the High Council would stop everything, without any possibility of a later change. 5. This means that now, other means must be brought to application in terms of all matters surrounding the group and its existence and task fulfillment. Billy, and how should that look? Quetzal, 24. Regulations of a disciplinary form must be created by you yourselves, by those who exhibit a certain sense of responsibility, and these are to be strictly followed without exception, unless there is a true impossibility for duty fulfillment. 25. Violations, and to be sure, in even just a single form, must be punished for the time being immediately and unalterably by an irrevocable expulsion from the group. Billy, and if this dwindles more and more, what then? Quetzal, 26. It is calculated by the High Council that if this happens, then under the new plans, at least 3 group members are still sufficient to organize everything from the ground up and still fulfill the task truthfully and with good interest. Billy, that was actually a question that I wanted to ask you. But do you yourself also think that this is right, what the High Council has concocted and contrived? Quetzal, 27. We are all of the conviction that this advice is of correctness. Billy, well then, look here. There I have the revised statutes and regulations for our group. Please read through it once and then tell me what you think of it. Quetzal and Semyas read the statutes. Billy, and? Quetzal, 28. You've grasped the things very well, and what is written as regulations is probably the only possibility by which Earth human beings will introduce themselves into an important order. 29. In my judgment, these statutes correspond exactly to that which must be put through. Billy. Is that? Do you really mean that seriously? Quetzal, 30. That is of correctness. Billy, man, son, you directly take my joy away. I was of the opinion that I could let out my anger on you because I was of the view that you wouldn't agree with everything. And now this, my son. You can just spoil all joy for a person. Quetzal, 31. That wasn't my intention. Semyas, 6. Hectares, ha ha. Ha ha ha. Quetzal, you actually fell for it. 7. He is truly very glad that you are of the same view as him. 8. Hectares, ha ha. His jokes are often strange, and you may not always take all his words seriously when he holds certain moods in himself. 9. You should observe him better when he speaks with you, ha ha ha. Quetzal, 32. 33. Is that really so, my friend? Billy, certainly. Our golden angel has seen through me. I'm really very glad that you find everything good, for otherwise, I would have had to howl around, and because a rejection on your side would have meant that I would have actually and irrevocably thrown down the pickaxe. Quetzal, 34. Oh, then that is understood. 35. Yes, it is very well so, but in no way may an exception come about, except with a provable impossibility. Billy, and what do you think, girl? Semyas, 10. Your draft is very good, but it is still missing an important point, which you still have to add to these statutes under all circumstances, so namely in reference to compensation for you and for all your work, by which also the existence of your wife and your children should be secured. Billy, that is as... Quetzal, 36. This time, you may also give no objection. 37. It must be in such a way as what Semyas just declared to you. 38. We will still give you the necessary instructions about that after our conversation. 39. This is unalterable. Billy: okay, maybe you're right. On the other hand, since I have already been so hard in the statutes, I probably also have to give way once. Semyas: 11. That is very fair of you. Quetzal: 40. That is of correctness. 41. But now listen. 42. You still have to work a few more clauses into these statutes, in reference to the reception of candidates into the core group. 43. These should be determining rules, which require a test. Billy: ah, good, yes. Here, I have questionnaires for this specific purpose because I myself have already come up with this idea. Do you want to see? Here they are. Quetzal: 44. That is very good. Quetzal reads the questionnaires. 45. 125 questions. That is very good, but I will still transmit some more from me to you, about 25 of these. 46. At a later point in time, however, if everything finally takes its right course and everything is handled in accordance with the plan, and if also the wrongful acts and the betrayal as well as the lies and slander in the group's internal circle are finally resolved to a great extent, then these questions and their answers should no longer be relevant. Billy: and what do you think of the fact that I have written that not a single question may be answered incorrectly or not answered at all, and that through this, no reception will take place, if even only a single question is answered incorrectly or not at all? Quetzal: 47. Like what you've written here, the learning time should cover 2 years. 48. Accordingly, the arrangement is very good, that no reception may take place if even only a single question isn't answered or is answered incorrectly. 49. The full answering of all questions presented here is justified because this can and should be expected of the group members without exception. 50. This is so, even when it concerns Earth human beings. 51. Like what you've written here, this group, in regards to the teaching of the Spirit, represents something like an elite, of which such things should also be expected. Billy: you see, that's what I think, too. Quetzal: 52. It is fair, even according to Earth human concepts. 53. But it is still missing other things, which you have to add. 54. Effective immediately. No new arrivals should hold exercises in the Sahar Center anymore, unless they have passed a corresponding test with questions, which I will also prepare and transmit to you, and this also shouldn't be relevant anymore at a later point in time, if everything is operating well together. Billy: good grief, just today, I registered someone new. Quetzal: 55. Then cancel that by means of your speaking device. 56. Come, I'll help you. Billy: Muranos 5. Muranos 5, yeah, ich bin da. Billy: Agapula, Hatsiabigmia and Erdan Nimmer is Zantrum 2. Verstand. Muranos 5, yeah, ich han Verstand. Billy: get, ciao. Muranos 5, ciao. Quetzal: 57. Your mother tongue isn't easy to understand. Billy: oh, it is clear already. Quetzal: 58. So, the Sahar Center should only be allowed to be used in the future by persons who have passed a corresponding test, which I myself will prepare for you. 59. In addition, these candidates should be given a time of 6 months for teaching in every relevant respect. Billy: good, I'll arrange it like that. By the way, for the testing for reception into the core group, I thought that 2 hours of time should be assured to the test participants. What do you think about that? Quetzal: 60. There should be 3 hours. Billy: 2 hours, my son, that should really be enough. Quetzal, 61. In and of itself, certainly, but leave some additional tolerance time. Billy, okay. But how should it work with make-up time, if prescribed times can't be kept? Quetzal, 62. Concerning that, the following is to be explained. 63. Also here, no exceptions may be made anymore, unless there is a verifiable inability to comply with the time. 64. Reasons such as the journey would be too expensive, etc. cannot be valid. 65. Also appointments, etc. cannot be considered. 66. Even here, the rule is valid from now on that every person who does not keep to his or her prescribed times will be immediately excluded from the Sahur Center, unless they use the center more often than what is necessary according to their time, and if they, thus, let this extra time be omitted. 67. In all other respects, the transmitted data must be fulfilled under all circumstances in the month of August. 68. If a person isn't able to do this for futile reasons up to the last day of this month, then he or she is to be irrevocably excluded from the Sahur Center. 69. Unfortunately, the matters of the center, in reference to the storage, do not yet run in the way that would be necessary, whereby Marcel is affected by it the worst. 70. It will be necessary for him that he goes through a second storage period in the month of September, during which, every single Saturday of this coming month, he has to stay in the Sahur Center during the times prescribed by me. 71. For all other members, starting from the 1st of September, the practice times will uniformly change by 1 hour and 15 minutes, which will remain so for a long time to come. 72. The times for newcomers will henceforth amount to 1 hour and 50 minutes per week, depending on daily opportunity, for a running time of 2 months. 73. After that, they are also to be incorporated into the usual time of 1 hour and 15 minutes per every 14 days, which is then to be kept regularly. Billy, these data are very clear. But how long will the current period still last for the individual members? Quetzal, 74. Up to the end of the month of September. Billy, good. Then I now have a question about the storage facility, which, as you mentioned once, should also be of a pyramid form. When should this be built, and how large should it be? Quetzal, 75. The construction should still be initiated this year, for which I will transmit the exact data to you within the next 10 days. Billy, that's good. Quetzal, 76. It will mean a lot of manual work for you again, but you are certainly able to overcome this. Billy, certainly, but now, hear what I have to explain. As I explained to you at our last contact, I've now pulled myself back from the group and now pay my monthly house rent, etc., and basically keep myself away from everything that corresponds to a leadership of the group. But now, for this, we have managed things in such a way that 3 members stand between me and the group, who are oriented by me about all those things that need to be carried out or even arranged. Thus, I tell the 3 what tasks and works have to occur and what all else has to be done. These 3 members are then responsible for ensuring that everything is settled by the group. They are responsible for ensuring that everything now works out and is carried out to the letter, in accordance with the given arrangements, under the condition that I will do this as long as the time has been given by you yourselves to the group to lead everything, at last, into the proper and correct courses, and to produce the appropriate changes. So therefore, 6 months, which last until the end of the month of February, 1979. If, by then, everything should actually change and turn to the better, then I can still consider whether I should take over the leadership again, if that's in your sense. But if it doesn't work out by then that means that I would give up everything with the group and actually throw down the pickaxe. What do you think of this? Semyas, 12. It wasn't to be expected any differently from you, for you were too loyal to your task for you not to have had a very last solution still hidden in you, which you certainly still had to bring to application. 13. But this also became clear to all of us only after we had told you to inform the whole group of our resolution that from now on, the group itself must fundamentally take all matters into its own hands, which certainly couldn't have gone well, however. 14. A real leader, having the necessary organizational talent, is nowhere to be found in the current group, which is why a management and leadership by them would have also had no success, so a true resolution for any matter or thing couldn't have been brought into being. 15. In an extremely short time, it would have had to result in the complete destruction, which became clear to us quite soon, for there simply isn't any true decision-making ability or resolution capacity for such matters in any group member. 16. We hoped, however, that you wouldn't simply fail in that, despite your anger, you wouldn't lose control of yourself and that also, in a certain sense, you hadn't released everything of your thoughts and plans, and therefore, you certainly still had to have a final solution in yourself, but we didn't know how this would look. 17. Indeed, we also weren't mistaken in this, according to your explanations given just now. 18. And this was also the real reason why we all made intercession with the High Council for the continued existence of the mission in your group. 19. We simply couldn't resign ourselves to the idea that you would actually and finally give up, without still having a very last possibility in reserve and without bringing this to application. 20. Your whole life at the present time and across many other personalities of earlier incarnations was far too developed on toughness and constant struggle for you to have been able just to abandon everything now without any resistance. 21. You have aligned your whole nature too much on struggle and victory for it to have been possible for you to become disloyal to yourself. 22. And since that is so, which we have only now truly, properly, and fundamentally considered and recognized, there is, in fact, still a very good hope that everything will still turn out well and that the mission will find its fulfillment. 23. If you, despite everything, still stand behind the group and everything else, then nothing can be lost. 24. And now that everyone in the group knows that other than this current chance for them, no further ones will be given, they will now surely endeavor around everything sincerely, in the correct and far-sighted form. 25. Maybe now they will also finally realize that all your tasks are so very far-reaching that normally, one human being alone can't cope with them and, thus, that you're doing inhuman things. Billy, now don't plant flowers again, my golden child. Semyas, 26. My words are not a compliment. Billy, of course not, but you know, dear girl, that I'm quite damn sad because everything is just completely different than at the beginning. I often have to remember how everything was so nice and how, slowly through various unreasonable things and intrigues in the group, everything has nevertheless changed very disadvantageously into unpleasantness. I am so damn hurt because of it. Semyas, 27. 28. Unfortunately, you write, and I wish that it had never happened in such a way as it has, unfortunately, happened. 29. Still other things, however, worry me very much. Billy, so, and those would be? Semyas, 30. Very unpleasant processes and you. Billy, you've already been made aware of that? Semyas, 31. Sure, because Quetzal, in spite of your blockade, made an analysis when we found you lying in a coma in the forest. Billy, you shouldn't have done that. Quetzal, 77. We had no other option. Semyas, 32. So you know about the unpleasant matter? Billy, I know it, and I've also felt it for a long time, deep inside of me. Quetzal, 78. It would be surprising if you had no knowledge of it. Semyas, 33. It must be very painful. I feel that. Quetzal, 79. That is of correctness, and still much more. 80. It must be hell for him when he incurs the pains, if I may express it once with his own words. Billy, it's bad but not too bad. It can be endured anyhow. Semyas, 34. It is pointless if you want to conceal anything. 35. Our analyses show something other than your downplaying words. 36. Quetzal has also been striving since then to clarify things thoroughly and to provide you assistance. Billy, that really isn't necessary. I know very well that I alone must help myself because everything was only released by my nerves, which I've demolished very thoroughly. Quetzal, 81. That is of correctness, but from this, there has already arisen a very painful and organic damage, which isn't to be trivialized. 82. Remedial action must be taken against it. Otherwise, your time will collapse too much. Billy, possibly, but I feel no anxiety in me, even if my time would be very damn shortened by this. Semyas, 37. Sure, you feel no fear of death, we know that, but there are still many very important things to do, which just may not be wiped out by your death. Billy, oh, I know damn well that my time was unexpectedly shortened quite tremendously by everything, and that I can't make up for this. Quetzal, 83. That is, in the conditional form, of correctness, for I will leave nothing undone on my side to lead much or everything back into the right ways and forms. 84. Nevertheless, on your side, you should also help with this and hold yourself to my instructions. 85. Already quite often, I told you that long walks are of urgent necessity for you and that you need sufficient fresh air and movement. 86. However, you shouldn't go alone and recover yourself in this way, but rather always only in company, for you have already become too susceptible to weakness symptoms and often collapse, in order then, perhaps, to remain lying there for hours, which could be dangerous for you, seen from a different point of view. 87. Also of urgent necessity is this. 88. For the time being, under no circumstances should you deal any more with the concerns of the group members and their personal problems, for this stresses your nerves too much, which you are no longer able to bear. 89. Even the smallest differences of opinion, and not even evil-intentioned words, allow you, in your very miserable state, to lose your control of yourself, whereby you begin to shout around unnecessarily because you simply can't bear everything any longer. 90. Your nerves are truly completely ruined, and you must now put these under very strict protection. 91. If you don't do that, then you will work yourself up more and more, whereby then also your heart will be affected, which could then suddenly stop working. 92. Hold yourself to it, that for the time being, you no longer attend to the group concerns of an insignificant and private form, and to be sure, in no way. 93. Your group members should also no longer bring you in contact with squabbling group problems in any way, and they should also only come to you with personal matters, if these truly concern matters that can only be led into a proper moderation or to a solution through your assistance and advice. 94. All administrative and organizational works in group interests, as well as your responsibility relating to this, you must set aside immediately and let these be taken over by the group members. 95. Also, various group members should take urgent action toward the fact that you are no longer occupied with insignificant things, which they illogically work up into problems. 96. This refers quite especially to those who, quite simply, always rummage around in the same problems or apparent problems, which they could understand in principle and which they would truly be able to grasp if they only wanted to do so and if they tamed their egoism and jealousy. 97. Particularly in this respect, I unfortunately cannot avoid mentioning Elsie by name, for as I could already see on several occasions, she has been dealing for months with apparent problems of marriage alliances and of true love, particularly in reference to the principles of our relevant laws in the context of multiple marriages, inasmuch as a male life form gathers several female life forms around himself in a marriage alliance. 98. And as I could see, you already tried several times to explain these principles to her, in a very good form even, as I also found out, but she steadfastly refuses to acknowledge these principles because in this regard, a jealous egoism prevails in her, which she doesn't want to recognize under any circumstances. 99. Thus, she invariably always sees herself in a disadvantaged form, which can only be resolved if she finally takes note of the true principles and adapts her entire thinking on this matter to the predominating facts and laws of nature of the earth, without imaginatively and constantly making comparisons between our peoples and our laws, which can't find any validity on the earth for a very long time. Semyas, 38. That isn't Quetzal's word alone, for he and I have also talked this over with Father, who gave the same guidelines as advice for Elsie. Billy, oh, you, Green 9, even it still. But I'll see if I can explain these things to Elsie once again. But what do you think of this? On account of myself, I have no great worries. In this regard, I only have grief for the sake of my family, namely that my wife and children would, perhaps, suddenly have to get by without me having financial security for them. Quetzal, 100. You see, that's why we wanted you to change the statutes accordingly. Billy, oh, I see. Now I understand. Then that is, indeed, clear. May I still ask a specific question? Semyas, 39. Sure. Billy, it is on account of the new Pope in Rome. When will this twit be elected? Who will he be? And how long will he remain in his office? Etc. Quetzal, 101. It would have surprised me very much if you wouldn't have raised this question. 102. Well then, I will give you information about that, but you must conceal this until the data have been fulfilled. 103. At most, you may let it be reported that the new Pope won't exercise his office very long. 104. The new Pope will be determined by means of a very short voting period and by only 111 cardinals, who will appoint a cardinal by the name of Lucini as the new Pope by the conclave on Saturday the 26th of August. 105. His new name will be Pope John Paul I. 106. As brief as the time for his appointment will be, so brief will his term of office also be. 107. After the mentioning of his name in the conclave, it will then take exactly 33 minutes before he is appointed as the new Pope by the conclave. 108. This 33-minute consultation time will also be exactly the number of days, during which he will exercise his office as Pope, then to finish his life on the 28th of September, 1978, at exactly 11:07 p.m., without anyone being with him. Therefore, he will part from this world alone. 109. His death, however, will not be a natural one but a forced one, which will in turn be caused by a poison that stops heart activity, which then gives the impression of a heart attack. 110. The new Pope will be assassinated because he will shock the aristocratic rule of the Vatican and even horrify it by his behavior and his lifestyle. 111. But so will he also make deadly enemies among the cardinals and many others, for he will break the tradition of the Pope's coronation with a papal crown and only allow a fairly simple ceremony. 112. but the new pope will be too people-friendly in the eyes and thoughts of many authoritative Vatican officials, which isn't good for the Vatican because it will lose power through this. 113. So already a few hours after his appointment, a conspiracy will be forged, which will have the goal of removing this Pope John Paul I very quickly from his office, and to be sure, by an assassination of the same. Billy, man, that is some piece of news. But how will it be, then? Will it be just like with Pope John XXIII, or whatever he was called? Will this murder also remain undiscovered and unpunished? Semius, 40. Unfortunately, yes, because the power of the Catholic Church is great, especially that of the Vatican. Billy, one should finally clamp down on these dirty swines. Quetzal, 114. That would be a very difficult and hopeless undertaking and, moreover, deadly for those who would try this. Billy, oh well, then these dirty slobs can continue to putter around unscathed. Quetzal, 115. That is, unfortunately, of correctness. 116. But now, hear what I have to explain to you even further in reference to other concerns. 117. About this, my friend, you may also not speak publicly but only in the internal group circle, and that for as long as until the time has fulfilled itself. Billy, the case is clear. You can calmly entrust me with your knowledge. Quetzal, 118. What I have to explain to you is of great importance. Billy, nevertheless, I will be silent like a grave, my son. If it is necessary, I'll even take my knowledge with me to the grave, but you know that. Quetzal, 119. That is of correctness. Billy, then why are you still hesitating? Quetzal, 120. I just want to be sure. 121. It concerns the successor of the coming Pope John Paul I. 122. His successor will be, after long centuries, a non-Italian, so he will thereby initiate the time and circumstances for that fateful papal election, which will be responsible for the fulfillment of the ancient prophecies. 123. This third-to-last pope coming in October will, faithful to the evil determination, stand in the same star sign as his predecessor, who will still assume his office this month, Pope John Paul I, the Moonface. 124. The pope coming in the month of October will be a native of Poland, John Paul II, the Sunface. Nevertheless, his face will gradually resemble more of a vicious greater landscape than the sun. 125. This John Paul II, who is called by the true name of Karol Wojtyla, will, as the third-to-last pope before the great turning point of the earth world, act as the 264th pope and Vatican ruler, while malicious intrigues are built on his back, and he himself will build up the guilt for the fact that Israel can enter into an alliance with the Vatican. 126. After his death, which will already be in the near future, but I may not mention the date of death and its circumstances, etc. officially, but may only tell you alone, so namely on the 13th of May, 1981, if nothing changes, which is possible, on the 13th of May, 1981, Pope John Paul II was to have departed from life by an assassination attack of a Turk by the name of Aga Azza. The attack did, indeed, take place. Nevertheless, the Pope remained alive by certain unforeseen circumstances. The effects of the circumstances yielded that the assassin shooter was pushed when firing, and therefore, the shot wasn't fatal. Thus, a slight nudge influenced the course of all world events. Explanation from Florina on the 23rd of January, 2003. 127. Another pope will then make his appearance, over whom the human beings of the earth will wonder, as this will have also already been the case with his two predecessors, only that it will then occur in his case to a greater extent. 128. When this one is removed from the world by death on group of underscores, the Pope with the number 5 will then come into his papal election value of the world at time, so he, as the 266th Vatican ruler, will finally initiate the events of the great world turning point, thereby losing his seat in the Vatican, however, which will be completely destroyed. 129. But I will tell you more about all these things and in relation to other events at our next contacts, but you then have to guard this just as carefully as the data given to you now, which you may, at the earliest, make available to the public when Pope John Paul I has been murdered and when also Pope John Paul II has been officially announced as such, that is, as murdered by a shot attempt. 130. You may only speak of this in the strictly internal and trustworthy circle. Billy, the case is clear. I will hold myself to it, which you know very well, nevertheless. Quetzal, 131. I know, that is of correctness, but I still had to reassure myself again because too much depends on the fact that everything happens in such a way as everything is predetermined. 132. If these things would become known too early, namely by letting the facts be revealed, then the determinations wouldn't fulfill themselves, which they must do, however. Otherwise, the earth would then be completely destroyed, namely through culpable and premature changes by the human beings. 133. Changes may only occur through the change of the human beings and the situations and events resulting from them in their logical sequence. Billy, I understand. So let's speak no more of it. Do you, perhaps, still have something else? Quetzal, 134. Now, I still have a question, namely in accordance with your interjection of 8 p.m., etc. Billy, oh, yes, it was exactly 8 p.m., 40 minutes, and 13 seconds when I had interrupted you. With this, I meant that the Pope in Rome, this alleged Paul VI, departed this life at exactly that time. Quetzal, 135. That is of correctness. I didn't keep that in mind. 136. But now, my friend, I will drop you off somewhat out of the way in the woods, so that you will have to walk a little. 137. According to your appearance, you haven't followed my advice and haven't indulged in long walks. 138. But now, you were forced to walk a little, for your speaking device won't be sufficient in the calling distance for you to be able to call your friends. 139. Whether you like it or not, you will have to go into the village down there and use a wire-speaking apparatus. 140. Please greet your cannibal and all group members quite dearly and also give them good wishes, as is usual with you. Billy, gladly, my son, also greet yours for me. Ah yes, I am also to give you both the dearest greetings from all group members. Semyas, 41. I thank you very much, and I echo Quetzal's greetings and wishes. Billy, well then, okay. Bye together, and you're quite dear. Semyas, 42. Farewell, my dear friend. 43. Farewell and go in peace. Quetzal, 141. Till we meet again, dear friend, and pay attention to yourself. Billy, bye together. You are both very dear.